Oh boy. Oh boy. What a day. No, no one's here. Why would anyone be here? Everyone has everyone has better things to do. Out there on the internet. Are there signs of life anywhere? I don't know. Are there signs of life? It's a very interesting question, isn't it? Are there signs of life? Is there life on Peckham? Is there life on Mars? Well, you could have interesting things to do. You could go make pizza because you're apparently very good at it. There's lots of stuff. You have options. You have options. I have no options. All my options are closed still, which is going to the gym. Still closed. Still closed. Do. There we go. That's a good answer. That's a bad answer. That's a bad answer. All right. Well, we are having fun, aren't we? We are having so much fun. How is everyone doing? How are you nice people out there? What are you up to this fine day before Friday? Anything good? Anything fun going on in your lives? I hope there are fun things going on in your lives. Yep. Yep. Alright. Well, that's cool. I'm getting ready for tomorrow's class. It's up there somewhere. I'm also very excited because I finally found what I think is a camera mount that will work with my camera and with my desk setup that will allow me to have the camera a little bit further back so that I will capture a little bit more of me so that I can point at things and go places and do stuff without my arms being so unceremoniously chopped off and at weird points, because that's not fun. It's unenjoyable. Unenjoyable. In 5 days, I am going to Sicily. Ooh la la. What are you doing in Sicily? Are things in Italy largely like back opened up, or are you still kind of on the shutdown? Inquiring minds want to know. Maybe I'll move to Italy. Kidding. Nowhere in Europe will have me. Seafood, yeah. Oh, all right. Well, that sounds like a plan. Where was the country I wanted to go to? No, is it no? No. Quite. All open. You got gyms out? Do you have open gyms? So if you do, I'm just gonna forget it. I'm gonna sneak into Italy. Go to Nepal, climb Mount Everest. Yeah, it's not exactly the kind of exercise I'm looking for. I don't want to do a bunch of cardio. I want to lift things. I've always, well, when I say always, I have for a long time wanted to go to Malta. Malta looks cool. I like Malta. I like pictures of Malta. I like the idea of Malta. Everything else I'm not so sure. COVID free. I'm sure. They don't let because it's a small island. Like, I'd be surprised if anyone even showed up there with it. Right? Malta beats New York. Go there, open a gym and a restaurant, and just have a cycle of people. Go to the gym, get hungry, come eat, get fat, go back to the gym. It's a perfect system. It's an absolutely perfect system. Right? All right. So we'll get started on today's topic, and then we'll ease ourselves into open Q&A if anyone's interested. Before we get going, tomorrow is one of my online classes. Right? Friday, July 10th, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll go until you're done asking questions. If you want to get tickets, let me make sure I spell this right. You can go to darlingdata.eventbrite.com. You can go pick them up there. If you use the coupon code floating over my head, big bucks, you'll get $75 off. And if you buy a ticket, if you show up to the, you don't have to show up to the class. If you buy a ticket, you will get free access to all 24 some odd hours of my video training for life. You don't even have to attend the class to get that. It's a pretty good monetary proposition. Since I believe that we've worked out all the technical kinks, and I'm not kink shaming, but no one enjoys watching videos with technical kinks in them. I'm going to be recording these next two, so it'll be very exciting stuff to have recordings of me floating over PowerPoint and SSMS live. Hopefully with a slightly better camera setup where I can point at things, because this is troubling to me. I don't like this one bit. I don't like this at all. I don't like it. I hate it. I don't want to have my arm go away. I don't like when my arm goes away. I don't know. I'm going to might just start streaming video games at this point. Let's see, is that 75 off some random price set by you? Yes, it is. So, you will get 75% off the abs checksum of a new ID. How's that sound? Might do some modulus math in there too. Who knows? Feeling lucky. Roll for int, as they say. Roll for int. We'll see what happens. All right. So let's go talk about parameter sniffing stuff. Let's go have fun. Fun in the sun with parameter sniffing. So, very simple store procedure. Hopefully very simple anyway. If you have trouble with this one, we might need to talk a little bit. But we're just selecting the top 5,000 rows from comments ordered by score, and we have these two parameters on the creation date column. This is going to give us creation date start and creation date end. Now, I have two parameters here for a reason. All right. A lot of the times what I'll see someone do is something like take the creation date start and then inside the store procedure declare creation date end and then like add a date to it. That's a really, really bad idea. And so we're going to skip over that entirely. I don't like that idea. And we'll talk about why that's a bad idea in a little bit. So don't ask me why now, because you'll get an answer later. So we have two parameters for this here. All right, we'll go create or alter. Right, we'll join the incredible near past of 2016. We will create or alter this store procedure, and we'll run into what is a very, very common, like not out of the ordinary parameter sniffing issue, right? So execute this, and we will get a query plan back. Hooray! And this one will be, nothing too crazy, right? Parallel, little nested loops, little key lookup. Finishes quickly though, right? What a well-tuned, finely written, finely indexed for stored procedure this is. 137 milliseconds. Ooh, boy, boy. No wonder they call me a query tuner, right? They used to anyway. All right. So now we're going to run this with a slightly wider gap, right? We're going to change our gap to go from just the last week of 2013 to the last 3 months of 2013, right? So look at not even like a big jump, but just enough of a jump to make that plan that got chosen for the first set of parameters just not so great. And so we went from about 130 milliseconds to about 3.2 seconds. It's a rather unenjoyable jump in time. If you had a SQL server, let's say, I know it's crazy. If we had a SQL server, and that SQL server had queries like let's just say let's take the crazy one step further. Let's take the crazy way out there. And let's say that you monitor your SQL server in some way. Then you know that your queries usually finish in around 100 and something milliseconds. But now you've got these queries that are taking 3.2 seconds to finish. Ooh la la. That's a bad time, isn't it? It's a bad time for these queries. It's a really bad time. So what can we do? If we recompile, right? We recompile that stored procedure. We say, forget it. Forget what you know about this stored procedure SQL Server. Forget all those plans you had for this thing. And we run this with the bigger gap first. We're going to get a different query plan. Is it great? Is it perfect? No, but it is faster, right? It is almost twice as fast. So that's nice, and it's good to know that separate plans exist that make sense for different sets of parameters. And so the path that a lot of people might take, something goofy. Offline, I don't know. Seems okay to me. I don't have any. Yeah, stream quality is good. Sorry, pal. Maybe it blinked. I don't know. Maybe refresh. It's not me. Okay. Well, drop a message into chat if things come back. If not, try refreshing. But might as well put a message into chat just in case. If I only had a brain. Just when I was saying I had. Okay, well, chat works. Yeah. Ah, it's Twitch. All right, so let's go see here. Twitch network issues. Is Twitch down? Twitch is not reporting anything. All right. Seems better now. Okay. Let's see. Let's check Twitch support. No, nothing from Twitch support. Stable for you now. All right. Cool. Not sure what that was. Let's see. I am checking all of the Twitch stuff to see if there's anything. I'm not sure. I apologize for that. I unfortunately can't fix Twitch. Maybe Twitch needs a consultant. I don't know. Maybe Twitch needs some help with that, with their SQL servers. I don't know if they have SQL servers, but woo-wee. All right, so DVAC says Twitch is having network issues. YouTube is fine. Okay, so I guess that's one solution. Is if you're watching me on Twitch and everything goes sideways on Twitch, go watch on YouTube, which apparently is stable. Twitch is fine. What's the issue? Well, apparently there was an issue for a bunch of other people. Surly Dev. I don't know. I am not a Twitch consultant, nor am I a Twitch engineer. I couldn't tell you what just happened, but apparently YouTube was okay the entire time. So I don't know. Go ask someone who knows. Perhaps there's someone streaming on Twitch who can tell you why the Twitch stream was broken. I don't know. I wish. So one thing that I see a lot of people do, and there's usually a comment in here where it'll say optimize for unknown to fix parameter sniffing issues. There's always this comment. Always this comment. The problem with this comment here is that it is the opposite of helpful. And it doesn't matter what order we run these in. Even if I run this for the big range first, we're going to get a not really great, we're going to get the same plan for both, right? It's just not going to be a good time. And the problem is that the optimize for unknown is going to give us the same guess no matter how many rows might actually qualify for our filter. So we just get that clustered index scan plan for both of them. And for the larger set of data, that's kind of okay. But for the smaller set of data, we haven't really solved this problem, have we? We still have this problem where this was finishing in 100 and something milliseconds. It's up around 700 now. And we just get this bad guess every single time. We're going to get the same guess for how many rows are going to come out of that because optimized for unknown, which unfortunately has like this unfortunate habit of working okay like once every 5 years for something. Gets put everywhere for things. Now, another thing that I see people do, and which, I don't know, some people seem to have this particular fetish, is to use dynamic SQL. Now, this isn't really what I would call like a safety issue with dynamic SQL. And I never want to say it's 100% safe, but I do want to say that this is probably not the dynamic SQL that I would like get red in the face about, because we have date times in here, and it will be really hard to get SQL Server to accept like a malicious SQL command as a date time. Like I think you would have a hard time with that. Now, granted, there are all sorts of weird workarounds that someone could do. After all, we are still embedding these things into strings down here, right, in an unsafe way. This is the unsafe part of the unsafe of the dynamic SQL, and this could still bite us in some way. But you would have a hard time getting SQL Server to be like, oh, drop table users. That's a valid date. I'm pretty sure SQL Server would freak out about that. So that's not real. Probably isn't like where I'd be terribly worried about SQL injection, but this is where I would worry about perhaps SQL Server not having a very good time with the plan cache. Now, as much as I love this query, as much as I think this is a fantastic query, a wonderful query, I do not want millions and millions of plans for it in my plan cache. So if I run these, and you know what I should do? What I'll do is turn execution plans back on real quick when I run these so we can see what happens. Because I'm passing these two dates in, I'm concatenating them in as literals, they don't get parameterized. SQL Server does not parameterize this particular query. And if we look at the execution plans, because of that, the top one actually gets the plan that we would want, the index seek with key lookup, and that finishes in a pretty reasonable amount of time. And the bottom one gets the plan that we would want too, rather than taking like 3.5 seconds to repeat the key lookup plan, we have 1.8 seconds to just scan the clustered index for it. And that's okay with me. But this can blow the plan cache up, right? So if we run this store procedure a lot with sort of different dates involved, people do all sorts of different things. We go look at the execution plans, we'll get the plan that we want over and over again. But if we look in the plan cache, we look at what SQL Server actually stored for us, we will see many, many copies of those plans. And all of the copies of those plans will just have slightly different dates in them, right? So this is maybe not the best solution because we're not getting the type of plan reuse that we would want. It's like maybe not the ideal thing because even though our store procedure executed 9 times, we only get 1 use on all of those plans. Mr. P. Shaw, so do we declare variables in the SP and put the values there? No, and I will shoot you if you ask me that again. That is the worst idea. That is the same idea as optimize for unknown. So don't do that. It's a crap idea. Never do that. Not never, but don't lean on that. It's a terrible idea. So what you would want to do, what you would want, ideally, is to have a mix of safe dynamic SQL. The kind that has no chance of getting you SQL injected. And also having the correct plan depending on what sort of data we're looking at. So what we'll do is create this procedure. And this procedure is going to use a safe kind of dynamic SQL. Right? So we do not have these like concatenated into the string with anything. We have parameters directly inside of the dynamic SQL. And we have to change the way we execute the dynamic SQL a little bit. Like we have to tell SQL Server that we have parameters inside there, and then we need to tell SQL Server that what those parameter values are. So those parameters are going to come from the store procedure up here, right? So we take the store procedure values from up here, we put them into the dynamic SQL down here, and then we have declared parameters inside of the dynamic SQL here. And when we do this, we get the safe dynamic SQL thing, but what we don't get is or rather what we still get is the parameter sniffing issue. Right, so the first query will run and be very, very fast, and the second query will run and reuse that plan and just not be so fast. So now we're back to sort of the same parameter sniffing issue, just with dynamic SQL. Now, what you can do, right, but we're not blowing up the plan cache now. Now the plan cache will, because this is parameterized, the plan cache will be safe and sound, and SQL Server will be reusing plans, so the cache is not exponentially blowing up. So what we can do, and this is something that I did sort of recently with a client that I found very helpful because it allowed us to have 2 different branches of the plan with minimal effort. Was, you'll see a lot of people who will say, oh, you can execute separate dynamic SQL or use substore procedures or something. I use this to tack something on to the dynamic SQL that made everything work out. So what I did is I said if the date diff between the 2 dates was greater than 90 days, right? So if creation date start and creation date end are more than 90 days apart, then we'll put 1 equals select 1 into our query. And if it doesn't meet that, then we'll put in 2 equals select 2 into the where clause of the query. And then we'll stick our order by on and we'll execute our dynamic SQL in the exact same way. And when we run these now, we will get exactly the plans we want. And we'll get plan reuse too. Right, so we get the quick plan there. Oops, Zoom it betrayed me. And we'll get the plan that we want here. And you can see that the difference is that we got 1 equals select 1 here, and we got 2 equals select 2 here. And now SQL Server will reuse those plans over and over again in the way that we want, and everything will be happy and hunky and dory. And there's really no big change to the code aside to say, if we detect a large gap between these 2 dates, or at least a larger gap than we would want between these 2 dates, then we'll go scan the clustered index, say screw it, cut our losses, But if there's a small gap between the dates, then we'll go for that key lookup plan because that's way, way faster for that. So that's what I came up with there. And that's what I wanted to share with and show you all on this lovely day before Friday. Happy day before Friday. Did you just guess at 90 or did you do some measuring? For this demo, I just guessed at 90. For this demo, it seemed to be when the dates were about 90 days apart, or more than 90 days apart, things got weird. Or I was better off with the clustered index. I didn't do a ton of measuring here because it was a pretty quick demo, but you know, it worked out okay for me. It worked out okay for me. So I didn't quite guess. It was a good guess. It was an educated guess. But in this case, for this demo, this is where things worked out. Now, you know, I know with parameter sniffing, or key lookups, or whatever it is, people can tell you all sorts of stuff like, oh, you know, make the index bigger, do this, that, or the other thing, you know, but not always necessary. And the comments table, you know, over in Stack Overflow is pretty simple. Let's just not do the top. So, but it does have this text column in it, and like, you know, we already have the clustered index with this column in there, and so I probably just wouldn't want like a non-clustered index that also covers this, because without this column in there, we're gonna have to do that lookup no matter what for this query. So, you know, what I did was, you know, just kind of make it so that if we should be using the clustered index, we should go there, and if we should not be using the clustered index, then we will not go there. So that was that. And that was a lot of fun. Hooray. 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 Good stuff. All right. Do we have any questions about that demo? About anything that is talked about? Anything that I'm looking at, staring at? Anybody? Anybody? Do I need to send a doctor? Oh, all right, cool. So we'll switch over now, and because that was the end of what I had to talk about there, we'll just do open SQL Server Q&A for as long as anyone wants to ask questions. If no one has questions, I'm gonna just go back to my day as usual. I don't know. Maybe I'll write some blog posts. Who knows? But if anyone has questions, anything that you want to talk about SQL Server wise, life wise, tell me about yourselves. Tell me what you had for breakfast. I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm your not so private psychiatrist. Lee is here, so I know there's questions around. And show you the mug that I got. I used to live in Chinatown, and there are no spitting signs and posters everywhere in Chinatown. And the Tenement Museum in Manhattan sells these mugs, and I thought they were very funny. So when I moved out of Chinatown, I took a mug with me to remind me of like the decade of my life I spent in Chinatown. He says, "My name is Lee, and today I have mostly felt like an imposter. Imposter syndrome is real." You know, it's I really don't have an accurate enough mental picture of what imposter syndrome is. It you know, it's like, do you feel like you don't know as much as other people, or like, I know. Let's see. What do we have over in chat? Do you also know about Postgres? I know it exists, and I know that it is a pretty neat database, but I don't use it much. Malik says, how to use table type. Start by reading the documentation. Come to me with a specific question. Mr. P. Shah says, we have a third-party vendor application that uses a SQL login to access the database. Because of this, the vendors know the credentials and have used it to bypass access security before. How could I monitor access to make sure the only the application is using the account? Boy, I don't know. I don't really get into security stuff. I would say that you might be able to use extended events to audit logins and figure out what your application server IP addresses are, and maybe restrict stuff there. But it's really not the kind of thing that I would want to have any good advice about. But if you are interested in SQL Server security, there is a book. There is one book, as far as I know, and as far as I know, it is still a valid book. Come on, link. There we go. So if you head over here, there is one book that I have seen out in the world by Denny Cherry called Securing SQL Server. I don't know if the answer to your question is in there. All I know is it's the only security book about SQL Server around that I've seen that like anyone seems to read and get things from. So I would look there. He says, have you ever had any success with altering fill factor on indexes to alleviate blocking, or is this thought just nonsense? That is most likely utter nonsense. Fill factor is not going to have is likely not going to have an additional effect on locking and blocking. The only thing I can think of is that lowering fill factor might make it worse. If SQL Server thinks that it might have to work with a lot of pages in order to do something, it might start taking page locks, or it might escalate locks more quickly. I think I don't think that's going to be the solution to your problem. Things that I have done that have helped me alleviate blocking is make sure queries that do modifications have good indexes to find their data. So like maybe not fill factor so much as they can easily seek to find the rows they need to modify. Batching modifications. So probably the best single article about batching modifications belongs to Michael J. Swart. I'll link to his blog post over here. And then there's actually, you know what? I should link to this because this is actually quite excellent. Where do you hide this thing? There we go. There we are. What do you have? No, you don't. Where are you? Where are you hiding? I'm cracking up. So Erland Summerskog has a wonderful presentation called Don't Bite More Than You Can Chew. And Erland has the slides up there. It's an excellent presentation about batching modifications in different ways. And so I would go give that a read. As far as other stuff goes, my favorite blocking alleviation was let's see, it had popped up on a couple of blogs, so I was curious. Are you talking about fill factor popping up on a couple blogs, or fill factor to fix blocking popped up on a couple blogs? I would love to see those. Evac says, why are all SQL certifications going away? They're not. They're being replaced. So as far as I know, Microsoft is replacing all of their older certifications with newer certifications. A lot of the complaints about the older certifications was that, you would get these study guides that had like all of the questions in them, and you would get I think usually a random sampling of some of the questions. And there's a lot of malarkey in those. There's a lot of stuff that like real life DBAs just aren't going to be doing day in and day out. There's like like 7 or 11 questions out of like 70 that have to do with XML and querying XML. Just not something that you need to do all the time. And so it's just they were like sort of like a really bad representation of what people actually do with SQL Server, and they were kind of more geared to like, here's all our new features. Here, learn about our new features. Look at this new feature. It's a new feature. So it was always just like, it was a very bad gauge of if someone actually knew what they were doing with a SQL Server database. Those certifications were utter garbage. The new ones, I know some of the people who have been writing the questions about them. They seem to be nice, smart people who will hopefully do a better job of, observing and determining what actual DBAs and developers do day in and day out when they work with SQL Server. So I have high hopes that the certifications will be better indicators of if people actually use SQL Server correctly or like at all or whatever. So there is that. Mr. Pichot says, do you think the scenarios that benefit from less than 100% fill factor are worth it? So like I've seen some people lower fill factor and have it help them a little bit. It's one of those things where I'm sure someone out there has really seen a scenario where fill factor was like what they had to do. It was like a big deal, but I'm not that person. If like a lot of the blog posts that I see about it seem to be tested on very small scales with things, and like the differences aren't terribly measurable. And there's not really like, I don't know. There's not really anything I look at and go, ooh, smoking gun. It's always just sort of like, oh yeah, it's like, you lowered fill factor until those pages all fill back up, and now you end up with pages that are full, and you have to rebuild them to reset fill factor, and you come back and like you get like all fill factor really does is kind of postpone page splits. It doesn't fix page splits. Anyone who tells you it fixes page splits is lying to you. It just postpones them. Eventually, SQL Server doesn't respect fill factor when you load data in, when you update data, stuff like that. Nor does it try to rebalance things if you ever delete data. So it's like, okay, you postpone it. You postpone the inevitable, really. Let's see. What Begin Trans says, how to get started with consultation in SQL Server. If you're asking like how to become a SQL Server consultant, you can either get hired by a consulting company, or if you have a job, you can seek out work outside of your job, and you can try to like field clients while you're actually working, and then when you have enough clients or you have enough money saved up, then to like quit your job and like spend full time trying to track new clients down, then you could go do that. I don't know. There are a lot of other SQL consultants out there that you could try to be like. I don't know. I don't know if you'd want to be like me. SQL consulting kind of sucks right now, but there are many people that you might want to be like. There are lots of different models for SQL Server consulting too. Like there are remote DBA firms that are largely like consultant driven, and that's probably a more reliable model than being there for like performance emergencies. Like you'd probably have like more like steady work that way, but depends on what you're into. What kind of certifications would you take to become a consultant? None. Not a single one. Know what you do and do it well. Don't take certificate. Never. I would never rely on certifications to present myself as a consultant to someone. I want to be like, that's a good song. Actually, I think Jungle Book soundtrack is pretty solid, over and over. I like that. I like the Jungle Book soundtrack. It's a good one. That's the one the monkey sings, right? It's a good monkey. It's a good monkey. Happy monkey. I wish I was a happy monkey. Me too. Me three. Me all 74. I have not seen the live action Jungle Book, and I don't think I'm gonna. I don't think that's I don't think that's my fetish. But the cartoon one, wonderful. You got that snake. It seemed like every Disney movie then had that lispy snake in it. And inevitably the lispy snake would get hit over the head and its eyes would go all wonky. Gino Alfredo says, I wish you'll do a stream on Sargable Expressions. Alright, okay. What about them? What about Sargable Expressions are you unsure of? I'd be happy to answer questions about Sargable Expressions. Because they are important to some degree, but you know. Let's see. Mr. P. Shaw says, as you were learning about SQL Server, did you most of your learning on the job, or did you spend a lot? Both. It is a bug that bit me and bit me hard, and I would I would spend a lot of time like outside of work hours reading, going to SQL Saturdays, all sorts of stuff. So it was both. But you take what you learn on the job, and you maybe investigate more at home or something. I don't really know. See, we have a link to Stack Overflow. I feel like we've talked about this. Yes, I feel like I've answered this question several times from you. I don't know how else to answer it. It is not Sargable. If you want to make it Sargable, you can use a computed column. Otherwise, because you have to perform a bitwise operation on a column, if you don't have a reliable bitwise modulo, you will not be able to make that Sargable. So you're just screwed. That's all there is to it, unfortunately. I wish I had better news for you, but you could always just, start over with your developers. I don't really know. Let's see. Lee says, it's also too easy to overload on data learning post 2, I find. I think I have burnt out lately on this front. Yeah. From the same perspective though, it's like the posts will probably always be there for you. You can come back to them when you're feeling up to it. I think especially now, you've had an undue amount of time inside staring at your computer or just migrating between like one screen and another, like computer to TV, TV to phone, phone to watch. I don't know if you have a bathroom tablet, something like that, and like your brain's is probably worn out on screens and reading and absorbing things. Like human brain needs some time off too, And sleeping isn't always enough. You need, I don't know, some exercise or looking at things that are in the real world for a while too. Like taking a walk or a run or a bike ride or whatever it is. But don't feel like you have to cram it all in now. Don't feel like you have to. There's nothing that says I need to cram this all in right now. There's no rule that says that. And if there was a rule, I would tell you to break that rule. But yeah, and by the absolute same token, it's like it's very easy to burn out on producing that content. Like there are times, and I have a very hard time writing anything. And I'm just like, thank God I have blog posts scheduled out for like, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so that I don't have to keep writing and doing all this stuff constantly. But anyway, I think that's a pretty good note to end on. I've noticed that eyeballs are falling off. Take care. Everyone have a good time with the rest of their day. And I will catch you probably next week sometime since I'm teaching a class tomorrow. But thanks everyone for showing up. Everyone take care. All that good stuff. Like and subscribe, as the kids say. Turn on those notifications. And I will see you in another stream.